Okay, everybody, this is your video lecture, or one of your video lectures for this week 3. More pitch notation in treble and bass clef. We'll get into ledger line, specific octave designation. That'll be this lecture, and then I'll do a second one, which will involve the intro to the mathematics of rhythm notation, and then I'll do a third video lecture, which shows you how the assignments will work this week. So right now, let's kind of take a look a little bit at a review from last week. So what we learned last week, which you are going to be using this week, is we're expanding upon being able to read pitch names in the treble and bass clef. Because again, if you're going to be able to read music, you got to be able to look at these musical notes and know what letters you're looking at. And of course, whatever instrument you play, you learn where those letters are on your instrument. Also, even if you're a vocalist, it sure helps if you're aware of what you're actually singing instead of kind of just guessing. Or what a lot of vocalists do is they just kind of sing what they hear, whether that's a choir or a soloist. So if you can add that aspect of you actually know what you're looking at on a musical score, your musicianship improves all the better. So, quick review from last week. We learned that in the staff, these 5 lines and 4 spaces, we have the treble clef. The treble clef is where we're indicating our higher pitches. And as we follow the alphabet, we go straight up. The musical alphabet is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then it repeats. So we have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. And we kept on going higher. The alphabet would continue. This is not just an arbitrary E, that first line. Because remember, this used to be a very fancy G, indicating that right here, can you see the G there? Right there is G. So if you're going backwards in the alphabet, you would continue down this way. And you're going forward in the alphabet, you continue the letters up. If you separate out the lines, you get the first line E, second line G, third line B, fourth line D, last line F. And I said last week, I like saying, every good bird does fly. That will help you remember the order of those pitch names. And the spaces spell face. In bass clef is used to notate the low tones. Way back when, that used to be a fancy F, indicating that this is F. And of course, our alphabet continues up and down either way. And if we separate out the line notes, we get G, B, D, F, A, first line, second line, third line, fourth line, fifth line. And I gave you a great big dogs fight animals to remember that. Again, different people might have learned different ways. That's what I like. Great big dogs fight animals. And the spaces, all cows eat grass. So that's what we learned last week. And you had an assignment on Tone Savvy where you kind of had to confirm that you knew what those are. So now we're taking that information and we're going to add a little twist to it. And the twist is ledger lines. Now what a ledger line does is if you want notes that go higher or lower than the staff, you draw these little extra lines, and those are called ledger lines. So for instance, on the treble clef, the last line is F. Well, there are other sounds that go higher than that sound. In fact, I'll show you right now. Let me pull up my little keyboard. That last F is here. Well, there are other tones that go higher than this F. F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But you see, as those tones go higher, we ran out of staff. But what you do is after F, now we have a space. Remember, line, space, line, space, line, space. This is line. The next space is G. Well, we ran out of staff, but now you make a ledger line, A. Now this goes on above, B. Now we need 2 ledger lines, C. Now that goes on top of that, D. Now we need 3 ledger lines, E. And now we sit on top of that, F. So you see, it's a fairly simple system. And if you go down, the same thing occurs. This D, see, because this line is E, so the note right below E is D. And take a look at this guy, this first ledger line here, C. You're going to see that guy a lot. That guy's actually called middle C. And on the keyboard, middle C is right there. See how it's marked with a red dot? When people learn music, they learn the keyboard, no matter what instrument you play, and you'll eventually learn, we'll really get into this later, but it is in your first reading, C. We go up, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now you can see we got a lot of C's. This is C, that's C, that's C, that's C, that's C, that's C. They're all C's. Now there's different ways to tell which C is what, but for right now, we know that this is, we want to know that's middle C, which is right over here. Middle C. Now if you want to make tones that go lower, I'll tell you what, this is C, B, A, G, F, E. See how that goes down? Well, on a keyboard, this is what it is. See, it's going into the lower range. So since it's going into the lower range, you're going to need those ledger lines. All right. I also want to show you something. This A, see that A right there? That's the A right below middle C, which is here. C, B, A. This A is the exact same A as this one. All right, so now in bass clef, we have A, B. Now we need ledger lines. C, now that's it's on top of the C line. D, C, two ledger lines. E, etc., etc. This C is middle C. This C right here is the exact same C as that. This is what middle C looks like in the treble clef, and this is what middle C looks like in the bass clef. And of course, if you want to go these really low tones, see this low F? I'm going to show you something. F on the piano, let's find where F's are. This is C, this is D, here's E, 20, E, here's F. This is F, see three black keys? F, three black keys, F, three black keys, F, three black keys, F, three black keys, F. So these are all F. F, 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 F. But the thing is, where is this F? Well, we got a few F's. We got Great Big Dogs Fight. We have an F here. So an F here on that fourth line bass clef would be here. So that F, this F, whoops, this F is lower. Down here. That's F. So when we look at this music is going F, E, D, C, B, A, G. See how I added ledger lines? See? So you just count. If you're just looking at this, you just got to kind of count. You got to say, well, I know this line is G. Now go backwards in the alphabet. G, F. First ledger line E, then D. Next ledger line C, and that's right below C. Of course, you always have these charts to look at, and you've also got stuff in the ebook. So look at that. I'm going to start that low F and play these low tones. F, E, D, C, B, A, G, which sounds like this. And actually ran out of keyboard there. Okay, but you get the idea. So that's what the ledger lines show us. All right. So what I've given you this week in your Tone Savvy is a little exercise that looks like that. And on my next video, the other video, I will elaborate more, but I'll just give you an example of what this would look like. Can you identify the names? But this time we're going to have ledger lines in there. All right. Okay, so let's see. Okay, here we go. Now we got to deal with ledger lines. The cool thing is, since you already know these names, you could go on from this E and go backwards in the alphabet. E, D. That is middle C. That's middle C right there, which means this is the note before middle C, B. Uh-oh, now we got 3 ledger lines. This note is pretty low. Well, we know that this guy is C. This is middle C right here. Again, on the keyboard, that's that. So, this is C, B, A, G, F, C, B, A, G. Okay. And let's do some, well, this guy sits right on top of the F line. Okay, etc., etc. And let's just show you a bass clef one. Again, my other video where I do all the assignments for the week, I'll do that. But let's do some bass clef. Now we're in bass clef. What is this guy? Great big dogs fight animals. This line is A. This note comes after A. If you want a hint, well, that's a pretty big hint. It's telling you it's B. Okay, that we know that, all cows. Ooh, okay, got to figure this one out. We know this is G. Why do we know this is G? It's the low end. Great big dogs fight animals. So this is great. This is G, which means if you go backwards in the alphabet, this is up in the alphabet, this is backwards. G, go backwards. F, E, D, C. So that's a C. Let's see what the hint tells us. Yeah, we can see that C is between D and B. So we got this is C, and that's middle C. So again, I tell you that because it'll lead us to the next part of this lecture. All right, and let's just count ledger lines going this way. We know this is A. Great big dogs fight animals. So if this is A, this space is B. This line is C, and specifically that's middle C. Then this space is D. This line is E, which means that's F. And if we need the hint, well, that's a pretty big hint right there. Okay, so that is your summary of the ledger lines. Now, we get to another aspect of this. You saw how, since we only have the 7 letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc., etc., etc. You can see there's a whole lot of different A's, there's a whole lot of different B's, a whole lot of different B's, C's, etc., etc. So the question is, how can you tell them apart? Well, this is how we can tell the different notes apart, and it's something called specific octave designations. Octave means tones that are 8 apart, octave. And in your module, I put this. All right, so the reason, here's the keyboard, all right? Everybody who studies piano learns that this is middle C. That's the C right in the middle of the piano. That's this guy. Now, if you notice, they're calling this middle C C4. And the reason they call it C4, because if you look at a full keyboard and you start the lowest possible C, that's the first C that's on the keyboard from the lowest end. Then we move on up to the next C, and we call that C2. Then you move up to the next C. See, all cows, and we call that C3. Now we move to the next C, middle C. That's one in the middle of the piano. We call that C4. Now everything, and I'll finish the rest of this, C4, C5, C6, C7, and C8 is way up here. So I'll show you what I have on this limited keyboard. This is C4. Now if you go higher, C5, go higher, C6, go higher, C7, and guess what? You can go up to C8. If you go lower, C4, C3, C2. So we're missing C1, but I'll go C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7. And that's what we have here on the specific octave designation. So where do the other notes fit in? They go between. So the system starts at C, not A. So think of that. So everything from here to here, everything within this octave, these 8 notes before we get to the next C, are going to be 4s. So this is C4. A note here is D4, E4, F4, G4, A4, B4. Now we start the next system. C5, D5, E5, F5, G5, A5, B5. Now we start the next system. C6, D6, E6, F6, G6, A6, B6, etc., etc. And it's like that for every single octave, and you can see that we start on the C, not A. So for instance, we would not say that this is C4, so this guy must be A4. A4, B4, C4. System starts on C. That's pretty important to remember. Now, when you do the homework for this, and it's in the ebook, again, it's a separate video I made, which is going to discuss all that. You don't have to worry about that stuff. Okay? So, let's go back here. Again, I don't want to make these videos too long. Yeah, I'd like to make them little pieces. So as far as that stuff is concerned, that is your homework. That you understand how the ledger lines works and how the specific octave designation, and again, how it works for this. In my other video, I will show you where you're going to go with the ebook. So here's the ebook, and I've given you some chapter reading that is going to get you into what we've learned, but now you got this. Make sure you read all this stuff, because some of the assignments refer to this. Here's our letter names. You can see the letters going up and down. We go up, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Go backwards, A, G, F, E, D, C, B. So you can use this as a reference. All this stuff it's not homework. Don't worry about it. Here's our keyboard. You'll become familiar with the keyboard if you haven't already. At the very least, you should be aware of this. The next lecture, next week, the week 4, we'll be getting into more of this business and whole steps and half steps. Right now, you should just know the basic lettering, knowing that middle C is right there, the two black keys and the white key. And we just go the letters up, letters down, because there will be some questions where you'll have that. The reading also contains, well, we got that, you've done that. Reading also contains review of the letter names. And I just want to get to where it says specific. Oh, there we go. There's our octave numbers, see? C4. Everything in here, in that range, is the 4s. So if you just pick random numbers, that F3, well, there's C3, which means everything from here to the B is 3s. Why is that E2? Because this is where the C2 starts. Everything from here to here is in the 2s. Right, etc., etc. So a little bit of stuff to help you as you do your readings and assignments. So that is it for this particular video. Make sure you watch this second separate video where I'm going to get into the mathematics of rhythmic notation, and then there'll be a third video that I will do the various assignments you have this week, so you understand how to work them both on Tone Savvy and on the ebook. All right, guys, continue on. Good luck.